Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome to Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. I am John Schmeelk, joined by my man Lance Medow. Lance, what's up, buddy?
I'm doing well. Looking forward to the dialogue as always.
Yes.
How's everything with you?
Everything is great. We are in the Hackensack Meridian Health Podcast Studio. Keep getting better. We will take your calls at 201-939-4513. And we were just kind of going back and forth a little before we started, Lance, and talk about the preseason. Giants won their first preseason game. And we were talking about the Ravens and the ridiculous preseason undefeated streak that they had. And I said, you know what? I was looking this up the other day for a different reason, and I forgot what year it was, but I looked it up now. So do you remember the last time the Giants went undefeated in the preseason was?
Oh, boy. Wow. We're really bringing out the trivia early on in this program.
Yeah. I don't expect you to know this.
Yeah, I would say, I don't know, maybe 3-4 years back?
So the last time they went 2-1 in 2022.
Okay.
They went 0-3 in 2021. You have to go back to 2019 when the Giants went 4-0. They defeated the Jets 31-22, the Bears 32-13, the Bengals 25-23, and then the Patriots 31-29. So 3 30-point games, which, by the way, are as many regular season 30-point games the Giants have had since that 2020 season as well. Just for the record. So
maybe you're saying whatever you're just going through right now, this whole transaction may not hold a lot of stock or substance is pretty much what you're laying out.
The point I was going to get to is that...
I was waiting for the point here, yes.
How the Giants do in 2019 again?
Well, something tells me they didn't go 16-0.
Now, they did have 3 30-point games in 2019, though. So maybe there was an indication that they were going to score some more points. But they started that year 0-2. With losses to the Cowboys and Bills. Then they defeated Tampa and Washington to go 2-2. Unfortunately, then there were for 9 consecutive losses. So don't get too obsessed with wins or losses in the preseason would be the theme of my point. Rather win than lose, rather score more points than not, but it really does not mean a whole lot.
Well, we've had this conversation multiple times over the years, John, even before training camp starts, and it's always, what do you look for? And my response is, I'm not looking at it from a team lens. I'm looking at it from an individual lens. Yep. This time of the year is all about individuals. What do they show you progressively? How are they moving forward? And do they do enough to earn a roster spot? And can they carve out a significant role? Everything else, I don't want to say it's irrelevant. That'd be going too strong to the opposite end of the spectrum. But the team result, there's only so much you could take away from that. Case in point, there were several guys on both sides that did not take part in the joint practices that are going to play integral roles for the Jets and the Giants. There is players that are going to miss time during the course of the preseason because either out of precaution they're going to be held back or a legitimate injury. So you're not seeing all hands on deck for your own team that you root for the caliber of the opponent that you're playing. That's why, to me, it's about the individuals.
I'm with you 100%. So let's get to some of the individuals then for this game on Saturday, Lance. And we were having this conversation at lunch. You go back to last year, the Giants rested everyone in the third preseason game, but they played everyone in the second preseason game. Now, the difference is, last year, the Giants had 1 joint practice against the Jets leading up to that third preseason game, but no joint practices against the Texans leading up to preseason game number 2. So I was thinking about it, I'm like, well, we've seen before in weeks where teams have had joint practices, they then give a lot of the starters off for the game because they had so many high-intensity physical reps over the course of the week. But Brian Daboll spoke this morning and also said, he was asked by Jordan Renan from ESPN, asked a good question. He goes, does the fact that the Giants had joint practices against the Jets this week impact whether or not you're going to play your players on Saturday night? And Brian Daboll, who is usually not very forthcoming, actually did answer the question directly. He said no. So that makes me think, well, maybe he's not going to care. They did turn today's practice into a walkthrough. That was supposed to be more of a typical practice. I wasn't surprised by that. We've seen that happen before after 2 straight joint practices. So I wonder, Lance, what Brian Daboll's approach is going to be. We're not going to know until game day. He's not going to tell anyone. Something maybe will leak out on Saturday like it did last week when we heard Russell Wilson starting sometime Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon. So I'm curious to see how they handle this, given that this is normally the game where everybody plays, but it is the 1 week where the Giants have had joint practices. So is that going to impact Brian Dable's decision-making process?
And I also think back when they had joint practices with the Lions in Detroit, but remember, that was going into the preseason, week number 1. And the other thing that I think is relevant in this conversation, John, is if you remember, Brian Dable was asked, well, why are you having the joint practices with the Jets this year as opposed to maybe doing something in week 1? And he said, well, we looked at the data around the league, and because of the injury factor, it's better to wait to have the joint practices. So
few injuries, yes.
Correct. I guess I'm putting 2 and 2 together.
Which, by the way, does make sense. The guys are more conditioned after an extra week of training and practice, all that stuff.
They're more settled into training camp.
And you already played a game.
Back.
You already played a game, too.
I would say I think you could get more out of joint practices in the second week than the first week.
I agree.
Because, once again, I think you're just more organized. There's more structure. Guys have had a few weeks after the month off of not being around one another. It's a very sensible plan. But I guess what I'm getting at is if you had joint practices week 1 and you're worried about the injuries and so forth, there is validity in holding back your starters because you still have 2 more games. You got several weeks of training camp. Now that you're a little bit closer to the regular season opener, and as we said, highly unlikely you're going to have guys take part in the Thursday game against the Patriots, I would lean towards him perhaps electing to play some of his starters under these circumstances compared to what we've seen in terms of the setup in previous years.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see with when they start, figuring out exactly how they want to handle it, is it all the guys or none of the guys? Brian Dable made the point last week and was pretty vociferous about it, that he was going to play everyone that was healthy. And anyone that was able to play was going to play. And I imagine that's, if he decides to play guys this week, that's how he would handle this week as well. I think that would make sense. But I do think the overall strategy this offseason, I would imagine, Brian Dable probably wouldn't say this, but I'm just looking at it logically. You're starting the year on the road against 2 division teams. Hugely important games. If you start 0-2 in the division against 2 teams that had better record than you last year, it's a steep climb, especially with the Chiefs at home in week 3. It's a steep climb.
Yeah.
So I think the understanding is that you are going to have to come out of the gates here ready to play. And there's really no type of grace period here for playing into shape, playing into being ready to go. Like, that's just not going to work here, Lance. Like, they need to come out week 1 in Washington and be ready to play high-level football. So I wonder, maybe they play the guys this week and next week. So, I think that's a possibility, too, just because I think they really want to make sure these guys are ready to go week 1.
Well, you make a good case for it. Clearly, that's why you play the starters, I would say, this weekend against the Jets, for that rationale with respect to who you open up the season against. But even if you do play, John, keep in mind, on the Thursday game, your starters, remember, you still have 2 weeks before the season starts.
You hit it 100%. Lance, there are 17 days between that game and the Giants' Sunday game to start the year. We talk about this always heading into the playoffs, right? If you have, and I've always said this, if you have a bye in the first round of the playoffs, I don't want to rest my players the last week of the regular season. Because you're looking at then at 21 calendar days between games for some of these players.
Game, yeah.
And I think there is something to familiarity and rhythm and just being used to going out there and playing in a physical game like a National Football League game. And I don't like the idea of none of my guys having pads on and hitting someone else in a jersey that's not my own for 17 days before you want to go out there and play a hugely important game against Washington.
Yeah, I've been preaching it for years, John, on this program, on other programs. First of all, I don't coach scared. That's just my philosophy. Injuries are going to happen. You could put these guys in bubble wrap, and somebody's still going to get hurt at the end of the day. So why overthink it? But there is something to be said about routine that you mentioned. They're creatures of habit, coaches and players, right? They have a schedule, and they go about it every single week the same way once the regular season starts. Don't you want to get them in that habit before the regular season even starts? So there is, once again, reason behind playing some of your starters in the next 2 preseason games, but also approaching practices maybe a little bit differently so that when you get into the first full week of the season, there's not that much of an adjustment period. And I'm talking about the week of the 25th, okay? August 25th, that's a Monday, okay? That's a full week going into Labor Day weekend. There are no games. Then Monday the 1st is the start of the first full week of the regular season. What I'm saying is the week of the 25th, if I'm Brian Daboll, I'm treating that as if it's somewhat of a pseudo week 0 where you want to start the cycle of getting guys into the habit of, okay, this is when we're going to have positional meetings. This is when we're going to have a group meeting and so forth.
And you should be able to get
a transition.
4 practices in that week, right?
Without a doubt.
The game's Thursday. Yeah. You give them off Friday and Saturday. Practice, let's say, Sunday, Monday, off Tuesday. Practice Wednesday, Thursday. Then they usually give them the
3-day
long weekend for
because you're
going to
practice on Monday. You're going to come back.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's your last chance to get I'm sure they'll do some game prep for Washington at that point, but that's your first chance to really do, getting guys ready. And remember, the roster cuts down that week too. So that thing again starts to limit what you can do at practice. That happens at Tuesday at 4 o'clock that week. So that's also going to take into consideration how you're able to practice once that roster gets cut down on that Tuesday.
And I like the structure. They went to this seasonal structure, maybe 3-4 years back. It's been in terms of moving up the last preseason game, because we used to have the last preseason game was the Thursday and then Monday started week 1. They changed that. And the other reason why I like that, John,
is the third year of the 17-game schedule, correct? Third year of 17-game schedule? Does that sound right to you? I'll look it up.
I'm not sure off the top of my head. Everything's a blur at this point. But the reason why I'm bringing up this current schedule is I like the fact that, God forbid, somebody does get banged up in the third and final preseason game. At least you say to yourself, we got 2.5 weeks for that player to recover. Once again, the old system, quick turnaround. You lose a guy in that final preseason game, and this is why no one would entertain playing their starters, because you couldn't afford that. The guy's not going to be ready to start practicing the following Monday or Tuesday. But I think now there shouldn't be as much of an overwhelming concern because you have a bit of a buffer zone, I like to call it, if somebody did go down. So, and I'm not even talking about perhaps the 11 starters on each side of the ball. If there are quality backups that you think are going to play a role, John, you want to give them some extra snaps because they're not going to be on the practice field with the ones, play them. There's still value to that. And once again, if somebody sprains an ankle or something happens here or there, you still have enough time to recover to hopefully be ready for week 1.
Wow, I was wrong. This is the 5th year of the 17-game schedule.
Yeah.
I did not think it was that long. The first year with the 17-game schedule was 2021. I guess that makes sense. That's when the new CBA got signed, right? Heading into 21 season. So, wow, does not seem like it happened that recently. But there you go. It did. 201-939-4513. 201-939-4513. Real quick, in terms of guys that have been kind of banged up, I'd be surprised. Dexter Lawrence still hasn't done a ton in practice yet. I'd be surprised. Hyatt, Drew Phillips, and Evan Neal all got back on the practice field on Wednesday. So I'm thinking those guys all have a chance. I think you'd love to get Evan Neal in this game. You need to see him play.
Yeah.
Jermaine Illuminor, he missed practice Wednesday because his wife had a baby. I imagine he'll be ready to go if they want to use him on Saturday. Obviously, Andrew Thomas has not been activated yet. He's not going to be out there. Tay Banks is someone that missed Wednesday's practice. We'll see if that's something minor. Maybe you can get it back on the practice field. We'll see how that goes. Those are the main guys. Malik Neighbors in our practice this week. I'd be surprised if he was out there on Saturday based on what he did at practice. And those are most of the major guys, Lance. I don't think there's anyone else that you necessarily would think would not practice. And Chris Manners also missed Wednesday's practice. I'm not sure what his deal is, but those are the guys I think to kind of keep an eye on a little bit.
Banks, remember, played a real big portion in preseason game number 1. So if he did miss this next game, not necessarily the end of the world. If anything, maybe it gives you an opportunity to evaluate Cordell Flott a little bit more.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Daquan Felton, by the way, another guy. He did not practice against the Jets, but Bo Collins is back, so that's good. Cam Scatterbo's still out as well.
Yeah. So it's basically the players we've been talking about. It's not necessarily any surprises. And if Dexter Lawrence doesn't get out there, he's been in the system. Andrew Thomas is on PUP, so we know his situation. I think of all the guys that you just went through, I think Evan Neal is the most critical player that you want to evaluate in a game setting. And it's got nothing to do with the fact that Well, we haven't seen him in a preseason game. It's got everything to do with the fact that he's playing a different position.
He needs to play, man.
Okay? It's as simple as that. He needs the routine. He needs the reps. You want him to have game action, especially if you're still undecided as to whether or not he's going to win the starting job. You want to see Greg Van Roten and you want to see Evan Neal, and you want to see how they operate next to the center. So that's the true reason why you'd like to see him out there, no matter who the Jets are throwing in terms of personnel. You just want to see him in a setting that is not practice. And we could tell you till we're blue in the face, there was a level of physicality for the joint practices. They're valuable. It was good to go up against an unfamiliar opponent. But, John, every member of the Giants coaching staff, every member of the Jets coaching staff will say you can only simulate game action so much, even in a joint practice.
Yeah, Brian Daboll said that today. There's no substitution for what you do in a game.
So that spells you out everything you need to know in terms of why Evan Neal hopefully will get on the field on Saturday.
And I agree. If I had to guess, just based on what Brian Daboll said today, my thought is that the Giants are going to play a lot of their guys. But we'll see how it goes.
I'm with you. I connected the dots and read between the lines the same way.
So both our Brian Daboll translators are in tune. Well, they're on the same
page.
For the
time
I
being,
like that.
Yes.
Very good. 201-939-4513. Don't forget, guys, Run or Walk with Giants Legends. The Giants Foundation will host a 5K racing kids run presented by Quest on Sunday, October 26th at 9 a.m. at MetLife Stadium. Net proceeds will benefit the Giants Foundation. All participants will receive a commemorative T-shirt after the race day for a festival with appearances by Giants Legends and a live DJ. Register now at Giants.com/5K. The Giants Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. 201-939-4513. Let's go to Dave in New Jersey, who will lead us off. Hi, Dave.
Dave going once.
Dave going twice.
3 times.
All right, why don't we put him back on hold, Pearson? Maybe you can see if he's around.
No check swing.
It's Dave.
Hey, Dave, we got you now. What's going on, man?
John and Lance, thanks for everything you guys do. You always put on a good show. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in.
I am absolutely thrilled and encouraged by the past 2 off seasons and the talent we've got. Obviously, there's 3 holes, or unsettled positions that everyone's discussing. Who's going to be the right guard, DB2, Flott, or Banks, and defensive tackle? Internally, what out of those 3 positions? What's the level of concern? Which ones would you say the team has the most concern about moving forward?
Well, I don't think they have any concern with Greg Van Roten starting at right guard. I think the team has plenty of confidence in him. If Evan Neal does so well that he earns that, great. But Lance, you can disagree with me if you want. I don't believe the team would blink, hesitate, or even be nervous about rolling Greg Van Roten out there on week 1. I think they feel pretty good about him as a starter.
Yeah, listen, he was the main guy last season, so there's continuity, there's familiarity. He's been moved around throughout the course of his career. He doesn't take his position for granted because we talked about this on an earlier show. He didn't get a starting opportunity until he was 28 years old in the National Football League, several seasons into his career. So it's business as usual. Whether it's good or bad remains to be seen, but they'd be perfectly fine rolling out Greg Van Roten tomorrow if it was the opener and having Evan Neal as an insurance policy.
All right, so if that's the one they're least concerned about, Lance, how would you stack the other 2? Cornerback, and then what was the third one, Dave?
DT next to Sexy Dexy.
Well, let me ask you this. When you say DT next to Sexy Dexy, are you talking about when they have Burns and Thibodeau at end and who the second tackle is, or if they're playing a 5-man front, it's Dexter and then the 2 guys next to him? Which formation are you talking about?
Well, I'm assuming if we can get the third down, we're going to be in good shape as long as it's third and long. So my concern is, like everyone else's, is the run defense. So I'm thinking the first 2 downs. Who do you think?
Okay.
I mean, I've heard a lot of names rotated through there. Robertson Harris, I guess, is in line. Is that his name?
Yeah. So so if you're looking at early downs, you're looking at who the 3 interior guys are in between your edge rushers, Burns, Thibodeau, or Carter, whoever happens to be in that specific play. For me, Roy Robertson Harris is going to be one of those guys. I would be shocked if he's not. And I think even on third downs, if you don't have, some kind of, pressure package with a bunch of smaller guys in there, he would be the 3 technique in that spot. So I think you're looking at Dex, you're looking at Roy Robertson Harris, And I think the third guy would probably be Nacho. If you're looking to stop the run, that would probably be your third guy in those situations on early downs.
Unless they have confidence in Darius Alexander over time and throw him into the mix. But we just threw out 3 guys, 2 of which are veterans. And Robertson Harris probably has the most versatility out of that group and has been having a good camp. And I thought played very well in the preseason opener. So I don't know how concerning, how alarming that would be. And remember, linebacker play is going to tell an awful lot about how well the Giants do in stopping the run. It's just not the guys necessarily up front. You could have the guys get some penetration, but if the linebackers don't clean it up, it really doesn't matter how glowing the personnel groupings are. So I would say, to answer your question, Dave, in terms of ranking them concern-wise, I would say I feel good about the defensive tackle that you could throw in because there are a few different options. I'd put right guard number 2, and I would say cornerback would maybe be the most concerning, mainly because Deonte Banks has been on the record saying he had a sophomore slump.
I would swap O-line and D-line, but I'm with you. I think corner would be
I mean, I think we're splitting hairs here or there, but that's fine. And the reason being corner is because I think compared to, John, the 2 positions in the trenches, guys are out on an island when it comes to corner, okay? Nobody's going to save you. Nobody's going to rescue you. And somebody's going to have to play opposite Paulson Adebo and Drew Phillips in the nickel position. So
and look, defense is a weak link system, right? Teams are going to target a player, and if you want to target one corner, you can go out there and target one corner if you want.
Yeah, if you're a quarterback, this is the beautiful thing maybe about the NFL, you don't have to spread the wealth. You're not delegated based on regulations that you have to throw to the left or the right side of the field. If you just want to harp on the right side of the field because you like the matchup, just continue to throw it. Not to pour salt in the wounds of Giants fans, and I was actually having this conversation earlier with another colleague. We were talking about the Giants-Packers playoff game in 2016. DRC goes down, and what does Aaron Rodgers do? Aaron Rodgers says, DRC's not in anymore? Well, I'm going to be picking on the cornerback that comes in. So I just picked that out because I was having a recent conversation. But that is the thought process, Dave, to answer your question as to why I'd put corner as the biggest concern.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even if you have a good pass rush, as you guys know, the thing with Banks, great athlete, in phase constantly. It's just shocking that he can't get his head around. I mean, but, I assume they're working on that. So
no, they are, and they have been working on it for years. So,
yeah. All right. Well, thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Dave. And look, it's something that's a constant deal. It's not like he doesn't do it every time. But remember, and I went through this with Coach Marvin the other day, it sounds easy, get your head around, but there are specific rules here. And I was talking about this the other day. I'm trying to remember who I was chatting with it about. But if you're in phase, which means you're in good position, then you get your head around, you locate the ball, you knock it away. But if you're like a step behind
and you're trailing,
they don't teach you to turn around and look at the ball. They want you to play through the hands.
Yep.
And then you also have to be aware enough and in control enough to know when the ball's coming. So is he reading his tells from his receiver right? When the arms go up, when the eyes get a little bit wider, right? Those are things as a corner, if you look back too early, the guy's going to run past you.
Yeah, you'll lose a step.
Correct.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of timing involved. You have to really, despite the fact, and this is why it's so difficult, you're running as fast as you can to keep up with these wide receivers. Think about, folks, when you're running really fast. What are the rest of your senses like? Do you see things very clearly? Are you able to make really quick, conscious decisions as you're trying to run really fast? Well, we just talked about 3 or 4 different things a corner has to think about and worry about to decide how to play the ball. It's a difficult thing to do when you're a man defense, right? So it sounds easy, but there is a lot more to go into it than just, get your head around. Well, sometimes you're not supposed to get your head around. It depends where you are. So they are working on it. There's no reason to think he can't figure that out. But look, it looks like Cordell Flott's back. He missed the first preseason game. He's been practicing this week. We'll see if Deonte Banks gets back on the field after missing Wednesday's practice. And we'll see if those 2 guys both have a chance to continue to compete for that cornerback spot. But I'm with you. That would be the one that I would keep an eye on. I think there's enough depth on the defensive line where you could figure that out. Like I mentioned, you feel good about Van Roten in that spot at right guard. So I think that's probably where you still have, the most tenuous questions.
One play that comes to mind, if you remember from the first preseason game, John, it was the catch that didn't count as a catch, but Christian Wilkerson, I believe, of the Bills made a tremendous grab where the ball went behind Banks. He couldn't get both feet in, but I didn't think the coverage was terrible on that play.
It was pretty good coverage,
and,
actually.
his face and head was not necessarily turned around on that play because he was looking at the man, but, sometimes, and we talk about this with regular season games, you got to tip your cap to the opposition. Sometimes they just make a better play and they go above the X's and O's.
That's good defense because he had him pinned so close to the sideline
to force him out.
that he could not keep his
Correct.
feet in.
Exactly. Yeah. Whether or not he was in perfect position to make an interception or whatever it may be, he had him crunched up against the line that he didn't have enough space to complete the play. So you'll take that in terms of sticky coverage. But what I was chuckling in my head when you were going through when people are running that they can't necessarily think about other things simultaneously and making good decisions. You didn't even have to go that far. How about people that, and this drives me nuts in the city, who stare at their cell phones while they're walking? They're not even running.
Here comes the Lance old man rant.
Yeah, it's not an old man rant. Listen, I should not have to feel as if I'm in the Daytona 400 or 500,
500,
okay?
there you go.
Yeah, well, I put a 100-mile difference to make up for the frustration and sluggishness that we see on the New York City blocks, but people that they can't walk and stare at their phone at the same time. It's something that maybe we should work into gym classes in New York City public schools, that they should work on the skill set. That if you're going to look down and focus on something on your phone, you could still keep the pace of the traffic. That is one of my pet peeves that drives me nuts. So I was thinking about you talking about how challenging it could be for a premier athlete keeping up tremendous speed and making decisions. And I'm saying the average individual can't even walk and make good decisions. But anyway, a little side note that I felt was pertinent to the conversation here.
You doing all right?
Oh, I'm doing fine. Absolutely. Whenever we can work in some
complaining
common elements of life, you call it complaining.
Oh no, that
wasn't a complaint.
Oh, that was complaining.
You're going to tell me you can't relate to that situation?
I'm not saying your complaint's incorrect.
Okay, and I guarantee you a majority of our listeners and viewers can relate to what I'm talking about. I don't know how much you experience it in New Jersey.
No, people...
Because they drive more often
No,
here.
but people look at those... Especially if you're crossing the street.
Sure, yeah. Well, that's 10 times worse for everybody.
Look at your phone when you're crossing the street, please.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I'm waiting for the cyclists to start looking at their phones as they're cycling.
Well, they're bad enough.
That's the next one.
In terms of not going to... See, now you're going to get me started.
I know exactly what I'm doing.
Listen, I have some personal experiences that we could have an entire show dedicated to this, but their issue is they don't even ride down the right side of the road.
I know.
Okay? That's
yeah,
problematic
that's
before you even throw in, God forbid, the cell phones into the mix.
The electric bikes when they're just on the road.
All right, sure. I'm going to rant now for a second.
Oh, see?
I've got a couple.
I love it how, I get the brunt of the criticism, and then all of a sudden we open up Pandora's box.
I'm volunteering a rant here.
Okay.
Parents, as a fellow parent of a younger child, now my daughter just turned 8, my son is 3. I have seen way too many 13-year-olds in my neighborhood riding around on these electronic bicycles. Let me tell you something. Your kid can pedal. Your child is able to pedal. He might be very annoying and complain about pedaling.
Or she.
I've never seen a girl on an electronic bike.
Oh, you haven't? Okay, I'm sorry.
It's only been
You've
boys.
been keeping studious notes more
now
so than
I'm sure there is a young lady out there that has electronic bike. I've just never happened to see that in my
no
neighborhood.
Visual evidence.
No, I have no visual evidence. So
Okay.
I'm going to keep this to the boys. All right? And it's not positive, so don't accuse me of anything. You can pedal, okay? It builds some character. You actually have to do a little bit of work to get around.
Builds muscle.
Yes, a little exercise. There is no reason for a teenager to need... Now, if somebody has some kind of physical, issue where they can't pedal, all right, fine, cool. I have no problem with that. These kids that I'm looking at, riding around on an electronic bike wearing the full BMX helmet, walking through the park, or motoring through the park where people are walking around with their 3-year-olds and they're flying at 25 miles per hour. Parents, please, don't buy your kid an electronic bike if they're in junior high school. They don't need one. I know they can be annoying. Trust me, I get it. they don't need an electronic bike.
What about the scooters? Do you have a stance on that?
I don't
Because
think
those are electronic
I don't think
as well.
there should be any electronic
No electronic.
conveyance.
Okay.
In fact,
Gotcha.
I almost think it should be illegal. I'm not sure if you can't trust someone under 16 to drive, why should you trust them to ride around in a motor-powered other type of conveyance? This is my theory.
No. Can you imagine a kid having to pull over on the side of the road and change the tire? Like when a car breaks down? That would be some image.
Again?
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm getting killed in YouTube right now because we probably have some younger viewers in YouTube.
I'm sure you
Pearson.
do.
I'm
yeah.
sure I'm
Oh, you
getting
really, I'm sure,
hammered.
have. You've stirred the pot. Yes.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
But sorry, kids. You can pedal. 201-939.
Grandpa's yelling at clouds.
4513. No, I'm being direct. I'm not being subtle there. I'm being extremely direct with these
Says
things.
Lance, what if the Giants are on? Will you give me a break if I'm staring at my phone and walking on the street carefully if I'm watching BBKL?
Well, of course. I mean, it goes without saying. If you're watching BBKL, you have to prioritize the program. If the Giants are playing, I still would hold you to the high standard of being able to
I feel like if the Giants are playing,
multitask.
you should be in your house watching the game.
That's true. But listen, people
No,
have
there are
things
things
that
to
come
do.
up in
That's
life.
true.
I'm not going to blame them. I'm not going to hold that against
Here's
them.
what I would say. I think you can have the game on your phone, but if you're walking, it should probably still be in your pocket and you can hear
You
the
should
game
be
as you're
listening. Correct.
walking.
I'd have the
Correct.
headphones in. You could have the visual, but listen. And then if you want to look at a play, then at the corner,
yeah, that's
when
fine.
the light
Yep,
changes,
agreed.
whip out the phone
I'm with you on
and
that.
look.
And
You
it's not
can
like-
balance both.
And look,
Yeah.
with the internet these days, you could find highlights later on. That's fine.
Correct. Yeah. You'll remember the play, and then when you go home, you'll play catch up.
All right. I apologize for all of that, folks.
I don't. But
Let's go
anyway,
to Rob.
yeah.
Let's go to Rob in New London. He's up next. Hi, Rob. Robbie.
We're
All right.
batting 1,000 today.
Well, I mean, first guy showed up eventually. So
Yeah.
are we going to give Rob the 3 count too?
They're on delay.
All right, Rob
Going once.
going twice.
Going 2.5 times.
All right, put him on hold.
Going
Pearson. See if you can find Rob. Oh boy,
No check swings today.
Charlie in Portland, Maine. I
Oh,
guarantee
my
you,
goodness.
Charlie has walked across the street while looking at his cell
see,
phone.
the other two were guinea pigs for him to get off delay. That's what we did.
What's
See the
up?
sacrifices for this program?
What's up,
Yeah.
Charlie?
Hey, how's Sir Lancelot and Pick-a-Lot? How you doing, John?
I am slowly getting back. I'm dealing with a little bit of the remnants of a head cold, but the fever is gone. Thankfully, am I good to go?
Good. Hey, you sound like, I know when you was a kid, John, you used to ride a bike, and you'd have to go 5 or 10 miles a day just to go to school and go to the store because your father asked you to go shopping on it. And I didn't have a bike that went by itself, so I had a pedal.
Well, I mean, look, I didn't have to bike 5 miles. I grew up in Brooklyn.
He grew up in Brooklyn.
There was a grocery store like 2 blocks from my house.
It's not like Maine where you have to walk through mountains and
Yeah,
ponds
correct.
to get to a local
No,
store.
and I was more than willing to use public transportation. You know, take the bus, take the subway. No, I am not claiming to have to. I mean, once or twice did I have to like walk through like 6 to 8 inches of snow for like my 15-minute walk to get to a high school class in the morning. Sure, I had to do that, but I mean, no, I'm not claiming the barefoot up the hill 8 miles to school every day, Charlie.
All right. Well, that's what I would have said. I had to walk to school in the winter 1.5 miles to go to school. Hey,
Well,
the
Charlie,
thing
that's
is,
because you
those
probably
things
did
are
because you
dangerous.
probably had to
They're
cross
dangerous.
like 3 forests to get to the school you had to get to up there in Maine.
yeah.
Hey, I had to walk almost a mile to my elementary school, and they didn't have a cafeteria, so I had to walk all the way home to have lunch, and then walk all the way back and get there in like 15 minutes.
Well, what about
or
packing
10
a
minutes,
lunch?
Whatever it was.
That was not feasible?
Have a little sandwich.
No,
Yeah.
there was no place to eat there. You
Oh,
couldn't
there
go.
was no place to eat. Interesting.
Wait,
Yeah,
you couldn't find like a step or something
wait. So
to sit down?
Charlie, they made
right.
so in elementary
Yeah, I
school
got it.
they made everybody go home for lunch.
Yeah, that's what they
that's
did.
interesting.
But
Okay.
The good thing was there was a little pizza place called Angeloni's, and the pizza back then was 35 cents or 50 cents for a whole pizza. So my mom would give us enough money so we didn't have to go back home. We could just stop there and have a pizza. So there you go.
Right.
That was good.
What do you want to say
Yeah,
about the
fun.
what do you want to say about the
Charlie
Giants,
also cut his own wood and wore leather helmets too when he played football out in the park. Yeah.
I was the galloping ghost. Hey, they couldn't find me. Hey,
They didn't want to find you.
guys-
That was the truth. But anyway, yeah.
Really, I can't believe this is, it's not Giant Nation anymore. You know what it is? Helium Nation. Everyone's drinking the helium. I can't believe the hype of this team right now. We haven't done nothing. And you're talking about holes on the offensive line. How about left tackle? How about the center position? I mean, there's two big holes. And you're talking about Runyon, Van Rotten, and, Bunyan. I mean, those are two serious positions. And I don't think Thomas is coming back anytime soon. And you got Hudson, who's River, who's terrible. And you got J.M. Smith, who hasn't lived up to anything yet. So I think you got some big holes on the offensive line. You got some big holes in the secondary. You got some big holes. We don't know if you can even stop the run yet. I mean, you got a lot of neighbors. Toe jam football. I mean, his toes bad, and now he's got his shoulder bad.
He's working on new material.
Well, Charlie. Just to be fair, and I know you said fans.
Yeah.
You didn't say us. We have not been running around. I know we have not been. Look, this is very much a wait and see situation. This is training camp. This is preseason games. There are things to be positive about and things to be excited about. And I think, in all honesty, Charlie, I'll be honest here. If your fan base on August 14th, if you're ever going to be optimistic and positive, this is the time to be it. I mean, there's no harm in being excited about your football season on August 14th. In fact, you should be. And then look, if things go bad early, be upset, be mad about it. If you want to be realistic heading into the season, that's fine too. But look, fans should be excited on August 14th. They shouldn't be going in saying, oh, this is going to be terrible. I'm going to be miserable. This is going to stink.
No.
If you're ever going to be excited, the time is now, right?
Well, look, I look at it this way, John. After these last 2 years and the Giants over the last 10 or 12 years, everybody should be living in Missouri, the show me state. Slow the roll. I don't believe anything until you show me.
No, and Charlie, look, that is absolutely fair, and that
He's
is
all
fine.
about nicknames today.
And he is very good. By the way, Charlie,
He's pulling these out of his behind.
I looked something up. I want to go back to something Charlie said at the top of his call. You said people are drinking the helium a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Are you aware of what helium's boiling point is, Charlie? So helium will boil and become helium will become will boil and become gas at negative 452 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah,
so if you could find liquid some liquid helium to drink, Charlie, I advise you do not do that. It would probably not go very well for you.
I would recommend it on the other hand. Experiment all you want, okay? And report back to us as soon as possible. It got me thinking, how much did you really think about Missouri no longer has a professional football team because they moved to Los Angeles. So I'm giving him too much credit.
Isn't Oklahoma the show me state?
No, Missouri.
Oh,
that's
the Sooners. That's right. That's the Sooners.
So I'm
state.
wondering,
right.
Did he look at a map and did he pick also carefully a state that does not have a football team?
No, I don't think so.
No, we're giving him way too much credit.
Yes, I think, which is the
That's
fact
what
that
I
you're
figured.
giving him too much credit.
No, I know. Well, the more and more I'm
shocking.
talking this through, the more and more reality is setting back in. Yeah.
No, there's only one state. It's called the Show Me State, and that's Missouri. So that's where we should be living. That's all I'm saying is slow the roll a bit. You don't have to be negative. You don't have to be positive. You should be looking at this team and say, show me.
What is Maine's nickname? The Helium State? No?
What is Maine's nickname, Charlie? I don't know
it's
that.
The Pine Tree State.
Is it really?
How creative. Yeah.
We got a lot of pines. In fact, they just changed our license plate, made us buy a new license plate because they wanted to change it to a pine tree instead of a chickadee sitting on a pine tree.
Wait, hold on, wait. What was it before? What was sitting on a pine tree?
Chickadee. That's the
What's a chickadee?
bird of the state of Maine.
Okay.
Chickadee.
Is it like a type of chicken or is it like a flying bird?
No, it's a little bird. It's a little flying bird.
All right, there we go. Charlie, you got anything else for us? It's been a very interesting phone call.
Yeah.
Let's see. I got to have something else here.
Do you?
I just want to say something too about.
He's like, I haven't gotten the mad yet. Watch this.
I think we should slow the roll on Darter here a little bit too. And
Charlie, it's one preseason game. Anyone look? And I said it before they played on Saturday, Charlie. Whether he does well or whether he does poorly, No one should overreact to it. It's the first preseason game.
Exactly. And, we'll see what happens. I mean, look, the main thing is everybody stay healthy, and we haven't done – I don't know, there's a lot of people hurt, key people hurt. But as long as they stay healthy, that's the whole point of it to me.
Exactly right.
And then we'll see. Look, if we win – the first 4 games, if we go 2-4, we're a different team.
Well, Charlie, look, you got to win one of the first 2. I'm going to limit it to that. You got to figure out a way to win one of those first 2 division games. It's going to be very difficult to look. And can you do it? Sure, but to start 0-2 in the division like that and 0-2 to start the year again, that type of thing is very difficult to recover from. Given especially how things have gone here recently, you got to figure out a way to win in Washington or win in Dallas. And I know it's hard. They're not going to be easy games. I'm sure the Giants will be relatively big underdogs in both of those games when the time comes. But you got to figure out a way to do it.
Exactly. Hey, thanks, guys. Lance, take care.
All right, Charlie.
We're agreeing with Charlie. What is going on here?
Well, that conversation was so crazy, and it evolved from
chickadees and helium and
nicknames to insults to birds on license plates. I mean, we had the whole enchilada involved in that. So I'm still trying to process
his elementary school
all
routine.
that information. Yeah, exactly. His elementary school routine.
35-cent pizza.
Yeah. The inability to apparently pack a sandwich because he couldn't find the spot to eat it.
Well, no, I don't think they allowed. In fairness to Charlie, it doesn't sound like they allowed the kids to bring food in.
I mean, a guy like Charlie, you're going to tell me he's not crafty enough to throw it in his book bag? What were they doing, patting the kids down?
Maybe he wanted to go home.
Well, but he said he was complaining about how far he lived from the school.
Oh, he said he went to the pizza place.
Well, it's to me the complaining, okay, and we did our own complaining early in the program,
absolutely.
but that took it to
just
a
find
level
a park
that
bench or something.
Correct, exactly.
So let me think. Charlie, what do you think? Charlie's around 60? Give or take?
Oh, boy. We're playing guess his age.
Right? Probably at 60, right? Give or take? 55?
Well, I did say he was around when they were wearing leather helmets, so I think he should go a little bit higher.
All right, so let's say Charlie was in elementary school probably around...
He was in elementary school in the 1800s?
Like 1980, give or take? That would have been 45 years ago? Or maybe, actually maybe like 1975.
Yeah, I'd go more in the 1970s.
All right, so maybe like 1970, 1975, something like that. So
yeah,
I'm sure there are interesting things going on in Maine around that period of time.
Oh, I can only imagine. Yeah.
In and around the schools.
Well, with all the pine trees, though, they probably could have made some paper bag for him to put his sandwich in.
Yes,
I'm
sure they had.
It wasn't as if we were in ancient times back then.
I'm sure the number of bags wasn't an issue.
Well, I don't know.
Again, I think it was a school rule. Why is it so difficult for you to understand?
Well, it's very difficult for me to understand because, see, they also let us out for lunch during elementary school.
Yeah, me too.
Okay,
but it was an option.
Granted, it was an option. We did have a cafeteria. I understand that. But we had an entire playground connected to the school, and nobody said that you had to go and take part in certain activities. If you wanted to go to the local bench and eat, nobody was forcing you to also buy your own lunch. We all brought our own lunch because we played sports.
Did you have to get signed out?
No,
for lunch?
We did not have to get signed out.
Did I.
No.
Now, if you get taken out for lunch now, you have to get signed out. That's
we live in a different time period, so there's no way. I can't envision any school or institution allowing kids to go wherever they want. The kids would never come back. The bulk of them. I mean, let's face it.
At my elementary school in Nutley, you can go home for lunch, but you have to get picked up by the parent and brought back by the parent.
Oh, okay. No, that was not involved in the process at all.
I was never able to leave for lunch at any level of public school.
Yeah, I had that for, I think it was just elementary school. I don't think I had that for, junior high, I ate it. Junior high school.
Well, there's an independence in New York City, Pearson. So, I'm going to take a little bit of a shot at Massachusetts and so forth. So
you can't trust those like Southie youths up there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Form roving gangs
those
of
children. Yeah. Just the trust factor is not in the same ballpark.
Just ravaging Dunkin' Donuts all over town.
Yeah, those egg and cheese sandwiches on croissants, man.
Well, it's a Boston institution. I was trying to think of a Boston place. For you.
You guys are the egg and cheese people.
That is true. Jersey. First of all, don't refer to us guys as Jersey people. We're New York City people. First of all, but that's okay. Anyway, let's get back on topic here. Let's go to John in Cape Cod. He's up next.
What is the purpose of the show again?
John, what's going on?
Hey, John. Love your show, guys.
Thank you.
Really a pleasure listening and reminiscing. And John, your comments on the electrified scooters and bikes are spot on. You know, I've got a message out there. I'll tell you, I'm older than Paul, but I didn't need a horse and wagon to go to elementary school. For all you millennial jocks out there, I'll tell you something.
These aren't even millennials, John. Remember, John, these aren't millennials. This is like Gen Z and Gen Alpha, right? Gen Alpha, I guess it would be, right? Yeah.
Whatever you want to call them. What I wanted to say was I started riding a bicycle at 5 and rode it all the way to the time I enlisted in the military. When I enlisted, I was 135 pounds soaking wet, but I had legs like I was 180 pounds. And when I got out of the military and went back to college, I played safety for 3 years at 190 pounds. And those legs helped me deliver hits that they throw flags for now. Last thing I want to mention is I'm really rooting for Evan Neal. I think he may have found the real home at guard where he doesn't get penalized for not having the quick feet of a lot of tackles. And this is the first time in a while I'm really optimistic about this team. Thanks, guys. Keep doing the great work.
Thank you, John, and appreciate your service. Thank you very much, my friend. And I'm happy all the bicycling helped you get ready for the military, which helped you get ready to play safety in college.
Well, just to bring it full circle, there's a reason why if you look at training camps for NFL teams, especially when they're away from the facility, they have all of their players, especially Green Bay. That's a tradition, right?
The Bills had bicycles too,
yeah,
I think.
so it's natural that would help in terms of the physique of the players.
Unless you're KJ Hamler. Did you watch?
Yes, the tiny little. No, but he got a new scooter. Did you see the latest episode?
It was motorized, though.
Well, okay. So that's right. We know that's the touchy-feely part of the conversation when it comes.
But he's also very fast, so I don't think you have to worry about KJ Hamler's speed.
Something tells me he'll be okay. But he did embrace the challenge. And he got it to work, even though it wasn't functioning initially.
Did it annoy you as much as it did me that he didn't take the bubble wrap off the thing? When he was
I didn't get that either.
Take the bubble wrap off.
Yeah, and he was trying to get it back into his vehicle, right? And I think the bubble wrap was still on the pole. I didn't understand. How do you take everything else off, but you leave it? Could have just ripped it off.
Take the scissors and cut it, right?
Yeah.
What is this?
No, on Hard Knocks,
Okay.
episode 2,
talking about. Yeah.
KJ Hamler, the receiver, in episode 1 was riding around like a kid's scooter, and apparently it got stolen. So he got a new, bigger, motorized scooter, which brings the conversation full circle.
Yes.
That's all I got. It was a fun little musical interlude, at least, for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, they had some fun with it.
Let's go to Len in Columbia, Maryland. Hi, Len.
Hey, guys.
What's up?
Yeah, hey, how you doing?
We're going on.
Was that Pearson who picked up the phone on your end?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Hey, he asked me a good one after I told him the topic. He asked me, are you sure you don't want to talk about electric scooters?
Well, thank you for bringing sanity back to the conversation, Len, or at least I hope so.
All right. Hey, here we go.
You can do one.
One thing about I want to go back to Banks for a second. I don't know whether we want to call it, he doesn't play the ball well, or he doesn't locate the ball, or whatever you're talking about. I do know one thing. He's got to stop giving up 35-yard passes a game.
Len, I could tell you, since the start of training camp, I think maybe he's given up one deep pass, has had one pass interference penalty thrown on him, and I think that is it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. All I said, he did give up a 35-yarder, though, didn't he, the other night?
No, the only pass he gave up was the crossing pattern. That was like a 13-yard catch.
No. The one wasn't there one down the sideline? Oh, was that it? Oh no, he was out of bounds.
Yeah,
he was out of
that's
bounds.
The play that I was referring to earlier.
Okay.
Yeah, the
All
Christian Wilkerson catch. He couldn't get both feet in. Yeah,
because Banks pinned him to the sideline.
Yeah. I just don't want him to be giving up a long pass a game.
100%.
I don't know. You want to call it play the ball, locate the ball, whatever.
Well, explosive plays was an issue.
And Len, by the way, it's not just giving up catches; it's not getting those long DPI penalties either. So, though you could put those into the same category.
Yeah. I felt pretty good about last Saturday. I'm not embarrassed by that. I felt good.
No, you should. They played well.
I thought that was that was okay. We showed some things. Little physicality. Maybe we want to be a little more disciplined. But I thought it was pretty good, scoring 35 points. And I like winning rather than losing if you're playing a real game. And I always like beating the Jets, and I'm not embarrassed by that either.
Nah, you sound like Paul.
Let's indeed beat the Jets. Question about Thomas. If he can't make it back for the first game, so it's Hudson and Illuminor at tackle.
Yep.
And we got Bo, who, boy, that was a nice showing on Saturday.
Played well.
A little bit of a surprise to me, but that was nice.
And by the way, and I know everyone's whipping boy, Len, but Azudu played a really nice game at left tackle too.
Yes. And I was going to go there. If Andrew gets placed on short-term IR.
Well, it'd be regular season pup is what he'd be put on.
Swing tackle, or do we need Azudu on the left side?
I think you would have. I think both of those guys would make the team.
If Thomas was on AR, or you think they both make the team if Thomas is ready to play on?
It's a good question.
Washington.
Because remember, Zudu's not just a tackle now. He can also play guard, which is what gives him a little bit more value. So it's a good question. I think if Thomas does have to start the year on PUP, I think there's a really, really, really good chance that Azudu's on the roster. Remember, he's competing with Stone Forsythe now, too, who's another veteran they brought in an offensive tackle. But, look, I think the interesting thing these last two games to me, Len, is that I think let's count Thomas as taking a roster spot for now, okay? You have those 5 starters. You have Neal, and you have Hudson. And I think those are the 7, and then Bo, right? Because he's a rookie, he's going to be on the team.
Yes.
So that's 8 spots. If they keep 10, which is what they've done in the past, who are these final 2 offensive linemen on the roster? You have Schlotman, Stinney, Azudu, Forsythe, Kubas. All those guys, I think, are kind of in the mix there to earn one of those final 2 spots.
Well, and listen, Hudson was already a little bit banged up during camp, so you got to maybe protect yourself.
With the names, the less enthusiastic I got, to be honest with you.
Well, Len, I hate to tell you, there aren't many.
I would like to see Stinney on this. I would like to see Stinney on this team.
Len, there are not many NFL teams that feel good about the 10th offensive lineman on their roster.
I agree. But when Kubas, nice, tough guy, plays the run pretty well. He can run block. He's just overwhelmed in pass blocking. He's getting to the point where I'm just about to say Kubas can't play in this league. And I do know one thing. From what I've looked at on film, John, on Forsythe, and there's not a lot of it, he can't play in the NFL. Draw a line through Forsythe, please.
We'll see what the coaches decide.
If you want to put Zudu ahead of him, okay. I'm not crazy about that, but if you're going to go with 9, put a Zudu in there.
Well, I mean, look, I think we saw Zudu was ahead of him in terms of the order in which they played the guys in game 1. So.
And remember, if you're going to be that 9th or 10th offensive lineman, you have to play multiple positions.
You're not trusting.
Well, that goes besides itself, but you have to play multiple positions.
Yeah, Forsythe doesn't. Correct.
You're naming some guys that don't have the versatility, which to me doesn't make them as valuable. And also, Len, I would not be splitting hairs over whether or not this guy's the 9th or the 10th offensive lineman. You're talking about players that are probably going to go on the practice squad who then could get called up. It's not as if you're going to be losing these guys, is what I'm saying.
When you get down to those, you're hoping we don't have to call them up.
Of course. Listen, you're never wishing for injury.
Let me ask you about those first 2 games. And I'll just start with Washington. I don't see any reason why they can't come down here and win that game. Okay, let me start.
No,
with that.
Look, Len, they almost beat the Commanders twice last year. I agree with you.
2 close games.
Now, but if they lose those first 2 games, John? I mean, is that the end of the world? I mean, we know where this team is going.
No, Len, no, look, I mean, do you want to head into a must-win Week 3 game against Patrick Mahomes?
Well, what are we looking for long-term, John?
Well, look, Len, right now, my only...
Those first 2 because we're not going to make the playoffs if
right
we lose
now,
them both?
My only concern right now is trying to win as many games as humanly possible.
Okay, all right. I think we're heading for a 10-loss season. But you know what? That means we've won 7 games.
No, look, Len, you could be right, and we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But at this point, my goal is let's get to November and still be and still be talking about standings.
Oh well, that would be a beautiful thing, and I'm with you on that. I'm kind of ready for, I'm ready for a 10-loss season, and I'm not going to be terribly disappointed by it, because that gives me the growth in the team. That again, I may have said this once or twice over the off season here, and you guys have had great coverage in the off season, right from the start, right from the first day after the season ended. It's been great coverage. I just think we're looking at 27 to make our move. I mean, we're working our way through this, building this team to the point where, geez, you really want Neil to beat out Van Roten. I mean, how many years can Van Roten play? If
listen,
you start looking
let's
at
backpedal
setbacks.
a little bit here. If we're going to take your hypothetical and look towards 2027,
I appreciate the call, Len. Thank you. You
There's
gotta
no
roll.
guarantee that Evan Neal is even on the roster in 2027. So it's irrelevant to get all caught up in him versus Greg Van Roten this year, because you're saying to yourself you want the Ducks to line up in a row in 2027. I don't see the correlation for that. That's
I'll
number
say this.
one.
I mean, ideally, I get where he's coming from. Neil wins the job. You re-sign him to a reasonable contract, and he's your starting left guard for the next 5-6 years at age 24.
Well, but John, they could very well just sign him to a 1-year deal.
Sure they could.
I mean, and it's got still nothing to do with 2027.
Correct.
Regardless of how he performs.
But
that's my
yes,
point.
I get where Len's coming from, though. As a team that's still developing and building, would you love your former number 1 draft pick to be good enough to earn the starting guard spot? Or you re-sign him long-term to man that spot for a long time? Yes,
sure.
I think that would be an ideal situation.
But I guess I would say the future of this franchise is not banking on whether or not Evan Neal is going to transform into a salvageable guard.
No, I hear what you're saying.
That's all I'm getting at. And my interpretation of what Len was talking about was a little bit small-minded. The other thing that I wanted to clarify, he kept referring to Andrew Thomas going on IR, and it's important. He's on PUP. If you start the season without coming off of PUP, you go to regular season PUP, which is like IR, but it's different. You will still miss the first 4 games, but in order for Andrew Thomas to go on injured reserve, he has to come off of PUP. He doesn't go from PUP to injured reserve. It's just, I understand it's a little bit of the nuances, but they're 2 completely different things. He will, if he starts the season without having any activity whatsoever in games and practices, he rolls over from preseason PUP to regular season PUP.
And that used to be a mandatory 6-game absence, but was
now it's
reduced
equivalent
to 4.
to IR. It's the
That is
first 4.
correct. All right, let's wrap things up with Frank in Pennsylvania. Frank, what's up?
Yeah, so you're talking about depth at tight end.
Yes, sir.
I'm now 89 and my son is 76. So here's where I'm coming from. Back in, I think it was 1979 or 80, somewhere in there.
Wait, Frank, hold on one second. Frank, real quick. Did you say you're 89 and your son is 76?
Yes.
Okay.
And we're walking at the line at Farley Dickinson at training camp, and we see this player across from us and walking down back to the wherever they stay anyway. And he said, "Who's that?" I said, "The Tower Cross." But I doubt if he's going to make the team because they already have Mark Bavaro and Zeke Mowat. And it turned out that they did pick him, and it turned out that depth was very well spoken for right there.
No, look, and that's why, Frank, if you have a young player that you think is going to be a good player, even if it unbalances your roster a little bit, you want to make sure you keep that player, because Lance and I say this all the time. You don't draft based on your needs this year. You draft based on future needs, because these guys are going to be here for more than just one season.
And that was also pre-salary cap, too, which changed the dynamics of roster building a tad.
Right, exactly, because I even said to my kid, I feel sorry for him because we already have 2 good guys there. But I was glad he got picked, and he was a great blocker anyway for the Giants.
And Frank, appreciate the call, man. And look, bottom line is that really good players will find their way on the field. If you keep good players, very often, Lance, fate intervenes and they find their way on the football field, and then they don't leave it again.
It's interesting, actually, that he was bringing up the tight ends, because we're having somewhat of a similar conversation, I would say, right now, right? With what Fedoni did in the last preseason game, making some plays, and you do the math, and Dulcich and Manhurts, who's hurt now, and you wonder how many tight ends are they going to keep. And do the next 2 preseason games determine who solidifies a spot on the back end?
And does the Scatabo injury then affect how many running backs you're keeping too?
Yeah. All of this juggling act. That's why earlier in the conversation we were getting into how many offensive linemen. Oh, by the way, they may not have the luxury to keep 10 offensive linemen, John, if they have to keep an extra tight end or an extra running back.
And then how about this? Maybe a wide receiver, if Neighbors and Hyatt neither goes on IR, but they're both still a little banged up,
yeah,
you have to then keep an extra wide receiver to give yourself a little extra depth there. And who's your return guy? Is it a receiver? Is it a running back? Like, all these things will play into how they build that final roster.
And also keep in mind, in all likelihood, and I know teams have done this in previous years, but we're under the operation that 3 quarterbacks will be on the 53-man roster, right? So,
correct.
That's another situation. Because remember, in years past, you could get away with keeping 2 quarterbacks on the 53 and then storing the 3rd one on the practice squad. But because of where they selected Jackson Dart and the 2 veteran free agents, that's going to eat up another roster spot too.
Yeah, so that'll be something that we start diving into next week and the following week. Cut down day, as I mentioned, is that Tuesday. That would be, the 26th, if I'm not mistaken, at 4 o'clock. So we'll talk about that leading up to that day and exactly what that Giants 53-man roster, initial 53-man roster, might look like. And then you have a few days of practice, and then, of course, your Labor Day weekend, the last sniff of freedom on a weekend until we get to the middle of, hopefully, the end of January. So, that's good stuff, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Good conversation.
By the way, didn't have a chance to tell you folks, go check out the Giants Huddle podcast. Up there right now, a fun conversation with Tom Rock yesterday, talking about everything both of us saw at Giants and Jets joint practices. Tom covers both teams. I thought it would be fun to get perspective for somebody that understands both teams in terms of what that might look like. Go to Giants.com/5K if you want to go register for the Giants 5K Case and Kids Run. It's on Sunday, October 26th at 9 a.m. at MetLife Stadium. You'll get a free t-shirt. There's a post-race festival, live DJ, Giants Legends, Giants.com/5K. Go check that out. And if you want Giants season tickets, go to Giants.com/tickets. You get your tickets there. There are probably individual tickets up there, too. Go check it out. I'm sure all the information's on there. Go find out what's going on. That's Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. Coming to you live from the Giants podcast studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. For Lance Medow, I'm John Schmeelk. Tomorrow it is Dottino and Sytak. Giants preseason game number 2 at MetLife Stadium, the MetLife Bowl, at home against the New York Jets at 7 p.m. Make sure you guys go check that out, and we'll see you tomorrow right here, same time, same place, 2 o'clock, Big Blue Kickoff Live.